Welcome in, everybody. Welcome. I am Mr. Marco, the Bearded Truth, Jason Lyon. As you guys can see, I still haven't even gotten home and gotten really situated. Been a crazy hectic couple of days, which is why I wasn't here live with you guys last night. I apologize. So I thought I would make up for it with an impromptu little live discussion tonight, starting at 8:12. Stefan, welcome in. Lynn, thank you. How is everyone doing tonight? So a lot of crazy stuff in the news right now. A lot, absolutely a lot of things to dissect. It's Tuesday. No, it's Wednesday. I messed up. I wasn't able to go live with you guys last night. Look at that hat hair. Look at that hair, man. Definitely an abundance of stuff. Oh, this is his times? My bad. I didn't mean to mess with his times. That was never the intentions. Welcome in, Tigress. Never meaning to step on other people's toes. It just happens incidentally. But we have a lot to talk about, and I missed my opportunity last night. So I wanted to make it up to you, the viewers, and have that discussion tonight. So there's 4 major topics that I want to get into, and a couple of smaller topics that we will cover as well. But the big thing on this, the Trump situation, we're going to save that for a little bit later because I know a lot of people are going to want to join in and hear the Trump side of things. Basic answer, simplified answer, it's really a non-issue in a lot of ways. A lot of people blowing it up, and it's just not there. It's just not there. But I want to first start off with talking about that girl from Iowa, the girl in Iowa, as MSNBC guest. Who is that? Professor Christina Greer. Christina Greer went on to went on to MSNBC, and she said something. Let me see if this is going to pop up without an advertisement. Nope, looks like an advertisement. All right. So she came in and basically, extremely rude. Basically made the point, hey, look. Oh, here it is.
The Republican Party has not stood up to this president, not once. So even if there's a guilty verdict from Manafort, even though Cohen has turned himself in, the fact that he was even sworn in as president after the Access Hollywood tape let me know for a fact that the Republican Party is actually not working on behalf of the American people. They are working on behalf of Donald Trump, and he's been able to bully them into their silence. And I don't think that today changes much, unfortunately. I'm sure we'll hear what he has to say about this at his rally. But Fox News is talking about, a girl in Iowa and not this.
A girl in Iowa. So a girl in Iowa, just merely a girl in Iowa. Obviously, it's a non-issue. It's a non-story. I don't know why Fox News is focusing on this. We know that Fox News has been focusing on illegal immigration, on building a wall, on that whole agenda, on that whole ideology. It's no wonder that they would be talking about Mollie Tibbetts. Mollie Tibbetts was killed by an illegal immigrant. She was killed by, she was a jogger who was running along, and her alleged killer was a 24-year-old illegal immigrant who obviously illegally immigrated into the country, killed her, and now people are outraged, right? Rightfully so. People should be outraged whenever somebody kills another one. Yeah, exactly. It should have never happened. I don't even know how to pronounce his first name, but the first-degree murder charge was filed against 24-year-old, an undocumented immigrant, right? They won't even call him an illegal immigrant. This is in accordance with an ABC News article. She was a 20-year-old rising sophomore at the University of Iowa, disappeared by the evening of July 18th when running around rural. There we go. All right, I think I got it. All right. While running around in her town of Brooklyn, a close-knit community of about 1,500 people. So she was killed. She had said no to him and wanted to get away from him, and he actually killed her. Horrible. Disgusting. A small little 5'2", 120-pound girl was killed by an illegal immigrant. And so Fox News was focusing on that. And what the other news stations, news media platforms, what they were focusing on was the Cohen and Manafort case. Well, thankfully, you guys know somebody that wants to cover both sides of the aisle, that wants to cover both situations, and from an objective standpoint. So that's why you guys come here. That's why you come and talk to me. You come listen to me. Is because I'm going to talk to you guys about both of them. So when it comes to this situation, right, we've spoken many a times before. Me as a minarchist, I believe that the government's purpose is to protect people. One of those things is to protect the sovereignty of a person to where no one is infringing upon one another, but also protecting the sovereignty of the nation, being able to have a border, being able to provide protection for that border, ensure that people are not illegally immigrating, that they are not immigrating without making themselves announced to the country in which they are immigrating to, right? It is important. It's that anyone coming into the country is seen as a threat until otherwise, right? I realize this may seem contradictory, right? We talk a lot of things about innocent until proven guilty. But when it comes to invasion, when it comes to somebody coming onto somebody else's property, you have to treat that as that is our property. You're coming in to violate that, right? You don't have good intentions on being in someone's property or being in someone's house without their permission. Why would the nation be treated any differently? So the illegal immigration discussion has been anytime that an illegal immigrant kills another, anytime an undocumented immigrant kills somebody, right, this spurs up Fox News. So while she is correct in her assessment that this is what Fox News has been focusing on, the mere comment, I don't want people are coming over here to leech off of us or harm others. The mere comment of that girl in Iowa is dismembering of that entire conversation, of that entire story. And so that's what a lot of people are focusing on, and absolutely 100% that is repugnant in the way that she had laid that out, right? You can at least honor her and say, look, they would rather focus on Mollie Tibbetts rather than focus on the Cohen situation or the Manafort situations. That's fine, right? Then you're at least being honest and you're not downplaying a story. Could you imagine, right? And listening to Larry Elder tonight, he was talking about this as well. Could you imagine if when it came to oh man, I just dropped his name. The black male that was killed by cops, right? What if they just said, look, there was a guy that was killed from Ferguson? Oh, the outrage that would have commenced after that, right? Instead, what we should be doing and what we should always be doing is at least honoring those that were killed in individual homicides and not downplaying who they were, and not doing with the likes of what Elizabeth Warren did and said, yeah, that may be tragic, but what we really need to talk about is kids being separated from their parents. What we really need to talk about is the tragedies that the American government is doing against these illegal immigrants, right? Downplaying the actual atrocities that are happening because of people that are not having the law being pushed against them, not being held accountable to these laws. That's horrible, right? So Elizabeth Warren is just as egregious in that manner. So you have this girl from MSNBC. What was her name again? It was Greer. It was Christina Greer, borderline dehumanizing, really dehumanizing in a lot of ways, Mollie Tibbetts. And then you had Elizabeth Warren coming out about. We'll get there, Gabriel. We're going to hit Cohen and Manafort in a little bit. We will get there, I promise. And then you had Elizabeth Warren just downplaying it and deflecting it. Have we gone to a point where people are have we gotten to a point where we can't even talk about all the problems? Instead is just merely a deflection to this other side or this whataboutism, right? And we're going to hit some of the whataboutisms later on when we do get back to the Cohen and the Manafort case. But is this where our politics lies? Is it in this day and age where everything that your party does, everything that your side does is okay because the other side has done something bad, something horrible, right? That's when you lose principle. That's when you lose consistency. That's when you lose the moral high ground on any of these things. And it should be important for anyone out there who actually wants to be involved with politics, who actually follows politics, who actually enjoys being educated on what's going on, to actually look at all these problems and just not downplay one problem just because there's another problem out there. Instead, let's try to tackle them all. Is that unrealistic to think that everyone can tackle all the different problems out there? No, we don't downplay one topic because you'd rather focus on another, right? You could say, yes, that's a horrible thing, and I hope we can find solutions for it, but that's not where I want to focus on, right? Instead, what happened was she said, that's bad, but you know what? That's not the entire country needs to ignore this. The entire country needs to ignore this because we have to focus on this other thing in order to make President Trump look bad. It really was the Democratic Party versus the Republican Party on this, right? The Republican Party is supposed to be in favor of the wall, in favor of defense of the borders, providing the sovereignty of the country. And Democrats right now are trying to make it to where the border is more porous and allowing more people in, not punishing those for illegally immigrating into the country, and doing the mischievous things that the Democratic Party has been doing for quite some time. So you have the divide between the two parties. She definitely just took the Democratic Party platform and she said, look, I don't care what happens to the American people. I don't care what happened to this American family. What we need to focus on is the atrocities that are happening to these other illegal immigrants that are happening, or that's going on in this country right now. I think that's really unbecoming of her. But she's trying to get ready for that 2020 race or that 2024 race, presidential race. And so, she has to do that. She has to go out there and make a fool of herself, make an ass of herself. If you're in the Democratic Party, you saw that in a favorable light. If you're a Republican, you saw that in a very dark and gloomy light. It's just based on your personal preference. I think it's atrocious, even without being in either of those parties. Because there needs to be some form of standard set. There needs to be something out there to say, look, when a family is taken, you don't just dismiss it in such an easy manner. That one really hit me a little bit. That one made me a little sad, but nonetheless, we can progress on. So another story that I want to talk to you guys about was, if you guys remember all the way back to a month ago, we had the Masterpiece Cake Shop. We had the baker from Colorado who actually had his court case move up to the Supreme Court. And there was a gay couple that wanted to get married and wanted him to bake them a cake, a specialized cake for their special day. He said, no. My entire shop is open to you, but I will not bake you something specifically for your event or something to resemble or represent that day. So he won that case 7-2 in a narrow decision. The narrow decision was because it wasn't created on you think he was looking to cause trouble. I disagree. I digress. Or I disagree. And we'll get into why I disagree in a little bit. But the decision was made not on a religious standards, which is what the principle of why he wouldn't do what he did, because it did disagree with his Christian views. But they disagreed because they said, look, at the time, gay couples are not a protected class within Colorado state law. Therefore, he wasn't infringing upon that. And so it was a really weak and narrow win. It wasn't anything to brag about in the same sense of what a lot of conservatives try to brag about. But when it came to how this all played out and follow up, we now have another situation in which the same man had a trans person come into his shop and say, I would like a transition cake. So I believe it was, I was a man, now I'm a girl. And so I want the inside to be blue, but I want the outside to be pink. And so I want you to create this for me, and you're going to create this for me in order to celebrate my transition. He said, no, that goes against my religious views. I will not do that. So he, instead of the state suing him, he is now suing the state over that because they demanded that he provides that to that person, to that individual. So now we are going to see another court case in which the same man expected to go all the way up, climb all the way up to the Supreme Court. Once again, we're not going to, the way that they restructured. Remember how I said it was because of the premise that Colorado state law didn't have them as protected individuals, being gay couples. Welcome in, Daniel. Well, when we after that had finished, after that court case had finished at the state level, they'd actually changed up the laws and enabled or made it so that trans people as well as gay people were protected class within the state. So now the entire justification on how the Masterpiece Cake Shop was declared and the narrow decision was passed, now that's not in his favor. Now it's not going to work in his interest. So now we're going to see him go back up to the Supreme Court, and if Kavanaugh or if another one of the Supreme Court justices aren't able to say, look, this is on a religious view or this isn't on this view or that view, there is potential that he could lose this case, which leads to a big issue. It leads to a huge issue, an issue in which I've taken stances against I take it pretty consistently, and that is that any corporation, any business should not be required in order to provide a service or a product to anyone for any reason whatsoever. Do I believe you yet? No. No, I do not believe you yet because I know that you're a dishonest person. That's why I feel. I'm not really interested in listening to your comments tonight. I know that you're a dishonest person, and that's okay. So this cake shop thing, I think that he really had a built-up ego. He really had a built-up view on himself because he won that one so handedly because it was 7-2. But the problem was that decision, right, for somebody who hasn't read into law very much, somebody who hasn't looked into the actual structuring of the decision that well, maybe his lawyers didn't explain it to him that well, was that it was a very narrow decision, and that's not going to work in his favor in this one. So they're going to have to, the justices, if this is going to go in his favor, it's going to have to go on to some other premise. It's going to have to go on to some other decision other than a protected class of the Colorado state laws. So it's going to be a scary situation. I'm really worried about that day. I'm really worried about the day that comes through, because that will create a, how's it going, Gotti? A horrible precedent in allowing government to decide how a business conducts itself, right? That's the beginning. That's the beginning of socialism, right? That's the beginning of communism, is when the state decides on who can provide what, how to provide it, and everything else. And I realize everyone's like, oh, you just jump straight to socialism. Well, that is effectively what that is. When the state says, no, you will provide this. You will provide this. You're going to provide this to this person. Then that's socialism. That is clear socialism. Peace sign at the beach. It's yeah, right. So correct, Hawk. And it's amazing, right? Now that he's had a second incident in the last 5 years now, in which court cases have been created off of the justification of somebody demanding something from him and his refusal to provide it to them. We now have the question of how many bakers are in Colorado. How many bakers are actually baking cakes in Colorado? Is he the only guy? Is he the only one that they can go to? If not, why would you want to have somebody bake you a cake that doesn't like you or that doesn't want you? Why would you do that, right? If you went to a restaurant and you said, you're going to serve me food, would you expect that food to not have spit in it? Right? Would you expect good service from somebody forced to provide it to you? I would never expect that. I would expect if I'm an asshole, if I'm forcing something on somebody else, they're not going to give me their full on effort. They're not going to give me what I want in the best way possible. All right, it's disgusting.
Tell them.
You're absolutely wrong. I know that you are a failed lawyer. I know that you haven't practiced law in a couple of years. I know that you just routinely lie, and it's okay. It's okay, Philly. Made it nasty tasting, but it went against his virtues and it went against his core convictions, and that's why I would disagree with that. But I agree with the sentiment. If he is forced to bake it wrong. And that's it's a good idea, right? And so that whole situation, it's just looking at that, I'm not excited to see how it all plays out. But I want to take a quick break and say thank you to everyone who's came in already, who's joined in, who's been a part of this discussion. I am streaming live on YouTube. I know I don't have any followers yet. I think I've got like 15 followers, so it's a small scope there. Yeah, exactly right, Sammy. Go elsewhere. The market provides. Crazy. I am streaming on YouTube as well as on Periscope. This will be getting posted on Patreon, so we're growing out in that manner. No longer posting to Facebook. We will still post articles and everything else. So if you guys want to find me on Facebook, you can find me at facebook.com/JLyon_BeardedTruth. That's JLYON Bearded Truth. You can find me there. I post articles there. I have longer discussions. I try to at least. Then of course, you guys can find me on Twitter at Mr. Bearded Truth. Find me on there. I'm quality filter banned, so Twitter is trying to suppress my voice, and that's fine. Is it true that you were funded by Russia? I wish I was funded by Russia. If I was funded by Russia, that would mean I would actually get like more pay from this, and I'd be happy. I'd be ecstatic. If Russia wants to pay me for stuff, I promise you it won't change my content. It won't change anything that I'm doing, but I'll gladly accept that money. If anybody wants to fund me, I will gladly accept that money. I will give you my Patreon link. I will give you my PayPal links. I will even hook up with you on Facebook if that's what it takes. Russia will be in touch. Fantastic. Philly supports a lot of disgusting things, and it's okay. He supports dishonesty. That's the biggest thing. So now I want to get into what Philly's been waiting for, what Philly's been sitting at the edge of his seat for. Let's talk about Cohen, because he already says this criminally implicates that Trump is going down. Trump is going down, guys. Trump is going down. He's going down. Right? No, of course not. Michael Cohen came out and he said, hey, I did some shit. I did some stuff I'm not proud of. I'm going to claim guilty. And that's it, right? He was guilty of campaign finance laws in which he was paying for things, and then President Trump paid him off for it. The question is, and the assertion is, that if anybody pays anything to anyone, then obviously it's a campaign finances. The question becomes, I am right there with you, Sammy. The problem becomes is, where did the money from Trump come from? Did it come from donors? Did it come from himself? He has quite a bit of wealth behind him. He came in with what, $4.5 billion worth. He's now down to $3.5 billion worth. He still has an insane amount of money in order to provide for the things that he's been using his money for. So there's still that proof that is needed. But you will have people that are going to jump the gun, and like they've been jumping the gun since the very beginning. Everything and anything implicates Trump. Trump ate chicken with a fork. He's guilty of treason. He's guilty of treason. He ate chicken with a fork. Oh, not with a fork. Oh, so there's many ways of looking at this entire situation, but the end thing that really it is with the Cohen situation is I want you guys to go back 2 or 3 weeks with me. Yeah, exactly. It was already. Yeah, he said it was his money. The problem is that you have to verify that. That's where that issue comes from, right? I don't think I've seen you here before, and so I want to just give you something, give you my view on things, right? People say a lot of stuff, and that's fine. People can say whatever they want to say, but I wait for the proof. That's what I'm waiting for. And so with this Cohen situation, it's really interesting the way it's all being played out. But like I was saying, if we go back 2 weeks or a month, I think it was. Wow, you guys are all for what? For what? For what? I was talking about Cohen, and Cohen was releasing tapes of Trump. And I gave you guys a couple theories on this, right? He released a couple theories on Trump, or a couple tapes of Trump, and it was to make Trump look bad. Now, if we remember all the way back to those tapes didn't really implicate Trump. They were having normal conversations. You can hear other people moving around within the backgrounds of the tapes. There's no hush hush. There was no code words. It was just plain Jane talking from one to another, and that shows that shows either a profound what's the word I'm looking for? A profound belief in oneself, or it's a completely ignorant of the laws and everything else going on around it. Either way that one goes, not really campaign finance laws, because within the law it says you have to actually have intent. It's not like a violation of a security procedures. It's not the same as putting TSCI or top secret or SCI on an unclassified server. It's not like that where intent's not required, but for campaign finance laws within the law, it actually does say you have to have intent. So that's a beautiful part of it, but that's fine. We'll digress on that. So either way on that, right? I also spoke about why Cohen was doing this. Why is Cohen releasing tapes of Trump? And I said that there was two theories on this. Either one, Trump was actually guilty of something, and we would have to wait and see how that plays out, and that's okay, right? That would be okay for him to do that if that's the way that he was going to do things, right? It implicates him and it implicates Trump. If that's the way that he went about it, and that's the way it went, I couldn't change anything about it, so that's why I would say it's okay. Or the other way that this was being played out. Look, President Trump, I've got dirt on you. I've recorded you. You didn't know I recorded you. I have stuff on you. You either A, are going to sit there and pardon me and grant me immunity, or B, I'm going to release it. Well, I didn't see any immunities and I didn't see any pardons, but now we have a guilty plea. Kind of interesting, isn't it? So there really wasn't any there from Cohen against Trump, but he's willing to go down for these situations. So we will see how all that plays out. But I want to just you guys have to think ahead a little bit on this stuff. And I'm not saying you guys aren't, but you have to really piece these things in and just say, look, yeah, it's kind of shitty that he was releasing these tapes, but why? Why is the bigger question? Why would somebody release tapes of somebody else? Why would an attorney release the tapes of his client when he has attorney-client privilege? Why would somebody put themselves at stake at that? And now Cohen is also, I believe I read an article, has lost his ability to do law, which I think is interesting. I may be wrong on that. It may have been another lawyer I was reading last night. It was like 2:00 in the morning, so I apologize for that. So it's the Cohen situation, really a big, fat non-issue. And we'll come back on that. Scope is on deflection train. Scope is on deflection train. That's good. It's good. Make accusations like that. So Cohen actually had released some of those tapes, and that actually created a large amount of questions on that, right? So the question was how did those tapes get back to Cohen in order for him to be released? Why, if they were collected by the FBI, why were they released from Cohen to the media. That did spur up a lot of questions. I believe Dan Bongino had a podcast in which he mentioned that. There was a couple conservative podcasts that were coming out and talking about that very specific part of that transaction, and I think it was really important. I think that it has a lot of value there, and a lot of people just move over it. They didn't focus on it nearly as much as they probably should have, because the implications there is that either investigation was completed while the investigation was still going. Obviously, if he was just going in for trial just now, or B, it was viewed as non-evidence, even though it had him and Trump, which was the basis of the entire investigation to begin with. So it's kind of weird. Yeah, FCC says the law wasn't broken. I agree with you, Zach, because intent was also a big part of that as well. But it's also just where the money came from. So in the Paul Manafort case, right, where tax evasion can now lead you to up to 350 or 305 years in prison. 305 years for tax evasion, which has usually been seen as something small and petty. You pay it back, the IRS collects its money, and you move on with life. But no. We have Detective Mueller on the case. He's going to make sure. Ultra soft. Here's my ad coming in from Charmin Ultrasoft. There we go. All right, sorry about that. So we have Cohen on getting up to 305 years for 18 charges against him, and that's because Mueller is pushing so hard. Now, we will get into the overview of Mueller on these two cases once we get through the rest of this Manafort situation. So 18 charges against him. So something that was brought to my attention again, thanks to KrisAnne Hall, which I would recommend each and every one of you to go out and actually listen to KrisAnne Hall, nonpartisan, somebody who's there in favor of the Constitution, in favor of the founding, and an education on those two things. Beautiful thing for everyone to learn. So the second scope of the Mueller investigation is wrongful, and so bringing about these Cohen and the Manafort charges all came about from the unconstitutional scopes of which was granted to Mueller, and so therefore, realistically, the charges should be dropped on those grounds, right? If an officer, right? So I remember I spoke to you guys about this before, and I want to give you guys a refresher on it. There was an actual officer that knew, or that was searching for a stolen vehicle, had a thought that maybe it was in this guy's driveway, on his driveway, like not in his garage, but had tarps over it. And so the officer walked onto the man's property, lifted the tarp, saw the license plate, ran the plates, found out it was him, went, knocked on his door, arrested the man, and towed the vehicle. A lot of people would say, look, that's a good thing. That's a clear violation of the Fourth Amendment because he was not secure in his persons, his houses, his papers, or his effects by doing that. And so that was grounds to not have him, that was grounds for him to actually be able to keep a vehicle in which he stole from another illegally. So if the state is going to get involved, they have to have probable cause in order to violate somebody's Fourth Amendment. Probable cause is not, hey, look, I think this might be it, so therefore I'm just going to open this up. There has to be supported by an oath or affirmation. So you actually have to have a judge just come in on it. Judge signs off. Yes, go ahead. Look on his driveway. I know that you guys think that that's there. Judge signs off on it. Officers show up. They notify him, hey, here's our warrant. We're going to look over here. Scoper studying for the bar exam? No, I'm just studying to provide you guys an education because everyone should know these things. Your American rights, your rights that are protected by the Constitution are important to you and to me. And I'm just trying to come out here and provide an education for you, just like what anyone else should. The wind blew the tarp. And I believe he had it secured. But I don't know why you're challenging everything that I say and everything that I do. Do you not have better things to do with your life? So it's something like that, and correlating that to this investigation, right? They're going after Trump for going through the first scope was because they believe that he had colluded with a foreign entity to handle the or to win the 2016 election. And so now they have the grounds of going and finding out Paul Manafort in 2010 to 2014 did some wrongful things years before the 2016 election, right? That doesn't really make sense. That doesn't fall in line with things. And then they also have the grounds in order to go after Cohen and figure out what money he spent in order to silence. I'm not saying that Trump. No. So I'll get back to that. Cold. To go after Cohen for paying off Stormy Daniels, right? That's not within the original scope. That's not what a judge should have provided. Now, the judge who did provide that scope, they need to be looked at. They need to be checked out, and to be reminded of what the Fourth Amendment is and what their duties that are afforded to them, that are delegated to them, and not provided to them in an unlimited capacity. Now, the question or the comment was, dude, you can't deny that Trump is innocent in all this. So you just said I can't deny that. So Trump is innocent in all that? I mean, I'm not saying that he's innocent. I'm not saying that he's guilty, but we also do have this thing where we treat everyone as innocent until proven guilty. I mean, if Trump conspired with Russia, do you even want to know? Yes, I do. I want to know. Absolutely 100%. I want to know. I want to know what our politicians are doing. As a libertarian, as somebody who is against the government and a lot of the things that the government does, I want to know when the government is doing wrong. Whether that is what's the word? A candidate, a presidential candidate, a congressional candidate, a member that's being looked at to be put onto the Supreme Court. It doesn't matter where they're going into. If they're doing wrong, I want that to be exposed. I want that to be exposed in a due process manner, not in a, oh my God, did you guys see what this guy did? Stupid question. Why would Russia want Trump in office? So it's not a stupid question at all, Lynn. So it's a good question. So if we remember all the way back to 2016, back in 2016, during the campaign, you had Russia, or you had Russia over there, and you had Trump, and you had Hillary Clinton. If we remember all the way back to there, Hillary Clinton wanted to start a war with Russia. She said this on multiple accounts, right? So there was one in which she said that she's going to impart a no-fly zone over Syria, and that would mean that Syria, whatever planes they had going, and Russia would no longer be able to fly in there. Russia had already put a line in the sand and said, hey, you cut off our planes, we're going to war. So that was one time in which he said that. The other instance in which Hillary Clinton promised war with Russia was during the campaign again. She was saying that any cyber attacks, especially from Russia, I'm not disagreeing with you. Hold on. I want to point it out why they would pick Hillary over Trump, or pick Trump over Hillary. In that instance, right? Any cyber attack is treated as an attack, and so it should be met with the same, right? It should be treated with another attack. And so that was another thing in which she promised a war with Russia in America. So on those grounds, right, to prevent a war, it would be better to have Trump, who Trump has been very vocal and very consistent on the idea of, hey, maybe they're not that bad of people. Maybe we can actually compete with them. Maybe we can actually trade with them. Maybe we can make the world a better place by not having these animus relations. But the Russians have already had good relations with Hillary. She gives the uranium. Yes, but it's not a matter of the history. It's a matter of what you're promising, right? Because if she does come in, so no matter what they're doing for the good of that, right? If she's saying that, what are the chances that she actually comes into office and actually performs those? Maybe Maybe they knew in the back channels. Maybe she was talking to them in the back channels. We don't have any evidence of that, so I would not think that that's a likely situation. But from what we know, right, there was no discussions in the background. So that was a 180-degree flip. Maybe it was just one of those things. Hey, look, they helped pay her. They paid her money. She gave them the uranium. Now she's coming into power and she gets to do whatever the hell she wants to. And she can cut off the ties with those in order to cover her tracks and not implicate her in the future. So there's plenty of those. What's up, Traversable? Sorry, I missed your chat, man. I realize you're gone already. So and yes, Russia. We've spoken about the Russian oil thing. They want to be able to get the pipeline through the Middle East. This was also something that Hillary Clinton was kind of against because she knew it would weaken her stances, which she was just saying, look, we're going to provide more renewable energy, which is not in contrast to Russia, which would in some ways also be a defense of why they would want Hillary Clinton to come in. Because if you're just having green energy, then the natural gas and the oil of what Russia is trying to produce would actually be able to subsidize America and be able to make that transition quicker. Russia has nothing to offer us. I don't trust them, China or Israel. Or Saudi Arabia. China has plenty to provide us because they are able to produce goods at an extremely low cost. And that's something good for the global economy. Yes, if you're a nationalist or a nationalist on the economic side, you don't really want the Chinese stuff. You want America to make it, be able to import less, export more. I'm not of that favor. I am of the free market ideal, right? That you trade and you get whatever it is that you can get at the cheapest cost and the best quality. And sometimes that means you have to go for cheap and low quality. But it's all about figuring out what you need and getting that the best way possible. What happens if China hits a downturn and goes full nationalist? What then? So even then, nationalists, even if they go nationalist, right, all that means is that we're going to import less to them. We're going to export less to them, and we will import more from them. We need to be somewhat self-sufficient. I don't disagree with that. We need to be able to provide for ourselves, but at the same time, we also still should be able to get goods from the other sides. Now, we do produce a lot. We are pretty well self-sufficient in a lot of ways, but we are spread out over with our foreign trade with countries such as Canada, with UK, with a lot of European countries, with China, with South Korea, with Japan, with everybody, right? We are pretty well spread out. Thank you for the super hearts. And so I don't think that we should really be that reliant upon one country or another country. Now, I do know that China specifically is one of the biggest importers, or is one of the biggest. Yeah, for us here in South Carolina, my state, China is one of the biggest distributors of our goods and services, and so they're more vital to my state there than they are to other states. But that's fine. Bibor, I'm glad that you're an independent. Thank you for being an independent. I think being an independent is important. You should never pick a party. Always pick an ideology. Matt Hops, welcome in, bro. So it's the trade thing is always an interesting one. I'm of the free market side. I am of the Austrian economics. I am of the get the regulations out of there, quit making barriers, allow the market to thrive and provide to people in a more efficient, more effective way. Better goods at a lower cost. So, but all in all, right, going way back because we did go off on quite a bit of a tangent. This entire Mueller investigation has really been derailed and has been diverted so far away that it's amazing to me that the media, the left media specifically, is able to take anything that comes out and they say, this is clearly what is going to implicate Trump. This is what it is now, right? It's only been the 10,000th time that they've said it this year, but this time right here, this situation, this Cohen situation or this Manafort situation, these are the damning tickets. This is what's going to bring Trump down, and which is going to bring down Pence down, which is going to bring down Paul Ryan down, which is going to lead bring down, just down the laundry list until eventually we bring in people from the civilian sector that aren't even politicians. We bring them in, and then once we've gone through like the 330 million people that are in this country, then finally Hillary Clinton gets elected president, and then we can cheer because finally our democracy wins. Woo! But they forgot the whole thing that we are 100% a republic. Sucks when I forget that we're a republic. Oh, stupid lefties. Always forgetting what kind of a country we are. But it's just amazing how deranged these people have become, right? And who was it? I think it was Dan Bongino had a podcast, and he was talking a little bit about the conspiracy theories, and he was talking about so is Trump going to get arrested? Probably not. We'll wait and see if he does, but it's not likely. So Dan Bongino was talking about conspiracy theories, and he was just like, look, anytime you have a conspiracy theory, everything will be able to add to it. And he made a good example. He was right. He said basically I think it was Dan, his co-host was an alien. And so that was the theory, right? His co-host went to the doctor, and the doctor did a blood test, found out he's a human. Oh, doctor's involved in this conspiracy theory. And so they took the doctor and they gave him a polygraph, and the polygraph shows out that the doctor wasn't lying. The polygrapher is now lying as well. He's in with this theory. Boom. It's and that's really where the left has gone, and that's all that this Trump Russia story, that's all that it looks like right now. That's all that this really looks like, because yes, we've been going on it now for over a year, getting close to 2 years now. Are we at the 2-year mark? But we've been going on for forever, and there's no evidence, and anything that has come out from this investigation hasn't been that Trump is actually colluding with Russia, or actually being involved with obstructing justice, or that he's doing all these things that the left has been continually espousing as if it's cold, hard facts. I was talking with somebody on Facebook yesterday, and they said, yes, Trump is guilty of treason. Trump is guilty of treason. And I asked, how? Well, the indication that Trump is guilty of treason was, and here's where I'll quote them, was he was in front of the entire world with Putin and didn't condemn him or Russia. So now if you don't condemn a foreign country or a foreign president because you want them to, if you do not succumb to their forced speech, then you are guilty of treason. She looks so not doable now. And it's just like, so first off, you believe that a president should succumb to the people, and the people can decide on what he should say or what he's allowed to say and what he's not allowed to say. I thought that even the president of the United States has the freedom of the First Amendment, the protection of the First Amendment. Just because he's the president of the United States and other parts of the Constitution are now limitations on him does not mean that the Bill of Rights doesn't also pertain to him. So those protections are still afforded to him, regardless of him being the president of the United States. These are the things that are important. We don't force presidents. We don't force congressmen or women. We don't force our judges. We don't force anybody to say anything. We allow people to say what they want or to not say anything at all. It's a beautiful world in which you don't force people to do things just because you want them to do it. But too many people on the left are too authoritarian to understand this ideology. Let people say things that are disgusting. Let people not say things that you want them to. Let them not condemn others. Let them not talk about the repugnant views of others, or repugnant views of others, or the actions of others. That doesn't mean that they are now criminal for it. Yeah, right, Hawk? What would the media do if he came out and said Stormy is hotter than Rosie? Well, I mean, Rosie's borderline a dude. It's okay. What do you call when a president apologizes for how bad our country is? I mean, it was President Obama's bowing tour, right? He would go and bow for anybody. Didn't matter which direction he was facing. If he was facing away, they were okay with it. Either way, he was making an ass. He was showing his ass to everyone. I don't think that you should be going out there and apologizing, doing an American apology tour, but at the same time, you can at least have a conversation and not be disrespectful to your history. There's a lot of things that President Obama did and his wife did that were really unbecoming. I thought that they were very distasteful, but do what you want to do. It just speaks to your character. It speaks to who you are. That's why if term limits were no longer a thing, I would never vote for Obama. Right. I didn't agree with his policies. I didn't agree with his demeanor. I didn't agree with him as a person. Is Trump really Mexican? Oh, hold on. Is Trump really Mexican? So here, I've got this, right? I know somebody said that there was a conspiracy theory earlier that they saw that was a conspiracy theory. So Trump doesn't like his family. He is Mexican. He's from Mexico, and he's trying to get away from his family. So he's going to build a wall. And he's just going to keep them out, and that's why he's so strong on immigration. And it's a beautiful, beautiful circle theory. I love it. So that's why President Trump wants to stop illegal immigration. All right, with that yawn, I must bid you all adieu. I appreciate you all for joining in. I thank you all for the likes, the retweets, the shares, the support, and everything else. Remember, I am on YouTube now, so if you guys want to tune in on the YouTube world, make it less of an abandoned scope, that would be much appreciated. The next time I'll see you guys is Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. I want to thank you all again for joining in, and I look forward to our discussions on Friday. There were more topics that I wanted to cover that we weren't able to get to them, and so they will be saved for Friday night. Make sure you guys join in for that. And I will see you guys all soon. I am Mr. Murica, the Bearded Truth, Jason Lyon. Thank you again. What's the YouTube channel?